Hello students, welcome to week 4 for PRL 320. This week we are looking at information related to financing, operations, and growth within business literacy principles for public relations professionals. You'll see in the week 4 agenda that we are reading chapter 5, which works on looking at financing, operations, growth. It looks a lot at startup companies and what they do to kind of project where they see their companies going. We have a discussion board due on Friday and on Sunday, as well as working on creating a life cycle chart. That's our assignment number 4, and working on our midterm. You'll see in discussion board number 4 that you need to write a 400-word post that explains concepts within the life cycle view of financing related to startup financing and typical financial arrangements. Make sure that you respond to at least 2 other students within your posts, and you'll get a good idea of what's expected for this discussion within the lecture today. Assignment number 4 takes that discussion from Blackboard to the next level. You're actually going to create a fictional life cycle chart that shows the growth and life cycle of a company of your choice. This can be a hypothetical company. It doesn't even need to be an actual company. Or it can be a company of your choice by looking maybe the company you pulled the financial records for in week 3. You can use that and kind of create your own life cycle chart with that as well. I'm going to show you some samples of life cycle financing and view of financing, as well as there's an example in figure 5.1 on page 89 of the text. In your assignment number 4, you'll provide an example of what you feel like this chart would look like for the company you've chosen, as well as a 200-word reflection about how this learning process may be useful in terms of projecting maybe some of your communicative goals and communicative plans for an organization from a PR perspective, and how this life cycle view helps you understand where those ideas may pertain to branding and things of that nature within public relations from those perspectives as well. The midterm asks you to take a comprehensive essay exam. You'll see the midterm posted within Blackboard. We're looking at this, as a professor, I'm looking at this comprehensively to see what you've learned over the first half of the class. There are 4 questions. It's an open book test, and there's no time requirement, but it is individual. It's not collaborative. You need to work on this on your own. The 4 questions you'll need to answer should be roughly about a half a page each. The entire thing between all 4 questions should probably be at least 4 pages to 5 in APA format with proper sources and citations and such. If you've done all of the assignments in the course, you'll see that some of these answers are not too difficult because you have created some of these things within some of these assignments. So do work on this early. There's 4 questions. It has to be a minimum of about 4 pages or so 3.5 to 4, and kind of go from there. If you have any questions, do let me know. As we look at life cycle financing, or the life cycle view of financing, it's important to know that it is useful to kind of stand back and observe some of the theoretical life cycles of business from an inception, growth, and maturity perspective. Doing this helps you understand how and when different forms of financing and different financing institutions can come into play. In the text, you've already looked at different things related to fictional entities and kind of looking at how finance situations come to be. However, this type of life cycle financing, the view, the actual graph, or some type of way that you choose to project this, uses a projection method really to demonstrate potential maturity and growth within a company, utilizing 4 different phases. The first phase is startup. That's where you look at savings, friends and relatives, angles, venture capitalists to help you get your business off on the right start. Growth 1 is when you see the business expand and its sales develop as a base of reliable customers. As a result, more capital is typically acquired. And some capital is generated through reinvesting profits from operations within your startup and growth 1 phase. If more growth is needed and you have proven strong credibility, this is where you can generally tap external capital to make more easily than you did before. When you get into growth 2, Unfortunately, most companies don't usually get beyond this phase of growth, but those that do have access to broader spectrums of financing opportunities. A lot of companies just stay within the Growth 1 module. So in this sense, in the second phase of growth is experienced by companies that have proven their revenue generating abilities to traditional financing resources. The prospect of growth is a powerful lure to equity investors, and they hope to buy shares while they're still cheap and unrecognized and hang on them for a profitable ride. This is where you may be looking at launching through an IPO perspective into the stock market and things of that nature. Once you've reached the maturity level in the life cycle financing, it's important to know that most companies don't tend to continue to grow forever. At some point, they'll taper off and kind of level off for one or more reasons. The first reason is success and profitability draw competitors into the market. Demand for the product or service is largely satisfied due to market saturation. There may be a technological or generational shift in your product, a loss of ambition, agility, or innovation as the organization grows larger and older. Whatever the case is, few companies sustain high growth rates for more than a decade. This doesn't mean that growth necessarily stops and that continued financing is not needed. Even saturated markets for mature products such as automobiles and computers and things of that nature continue to grow and expand incrementally as the population increases and as people in underdeveloped countries become more affluent and demand them. However, mature companies are often involved in mergers, acquisitions, restructuring, or other activities which all have important financial implications. So assuming that a mature company is creditworthy, it has options for other external financing for short time needs, can issue commercial paper and things of that nature. A healthy, mature company enjoys access to public capital for debts and equity capitals, but the timing is all important. The company naturally wants to sell its bonds and interest rates when the shares are priced very high. So really looking at how some of the operations and growths are typically financed at different phases within the life cycle of a business is important to know that in the startup phase, they generally depend on the following sources for financing: personal savings, lines of credits, loans from friends and relatives, 30 to 60-day trade credit from suppliers, loans from commercial banks, venture capitalists. Companies that are experiencing growth face the challenge of finding the financing to support it. So growing companies generally rely on combination of internally generated funds and externally financing sales of equity or the sale of commercial or paper bonds. We'll get into this in further chapters within the course, but the point of it is to kind of look and see the life cycle growth of a company, and as a PR practitioner, determine where you see yourself fit within their communicative needs. A startup company is obviously going to have different branding and communication needs rather than one that's in the growth of 1 or growth 2 or in the maturity saturation. So you'll see that where that may fit in. Here you'll see 2 examples of how you can formulate your life cycle view of financing. One thing that both of these samples do not share is the fact that you need to show and clearly have a development and explanation for what the startup phase means, like you see in figure 5.1. So a little blurb underneath startup will need to be put in yours that tells you what you planned on using in that particular company or what that company did use, and then so on and so forth. But you can organize this in any way you see fit. This is 2 examples I've provided to you so you can see how it relates to some creative elements for this, but it's ultimately up to you. To recap, we're reading chapter 5. We're doing discussion board number 4, assignment number 4, as well as our midterm. If you have any questions or anything, please let me know, and I look forward to interacting with you this week. God bless.